What happened when Kenneth Branagh was kicked off Lorraine Kelly's show after a heated clash will be remembered as one of the most shocking moments in British morning television. The sun was shining over the ITV studio and everything seemed normal. Lorraine Kelly's familiar smile lit up the screen, and her audience expected another light-hearted chat about cinema, acting, and art. Kenneth Branagh, the celebrated actor and director known for his Shakespearean brilliance, was there to promote his latest film. But behind that calm studio atmosphere was a brewing storm that no one anticipated. From the very first question, a strange tension crackled in the air, as if Kenneth had arrived carrying the weight of something unspoken. Lorraine's warmth met a wall of seriousness, and when her polite inquiry touched on accountability in the film industry, the tone shifted from cordial to confrontational in a heartbeat. Lorraine had asked a question she'd probably thought was safe, one about responsibility and leadership among directors in a changing industry. Kenneth's jaw tightened. His words, though measured at first, began to carry an edge that could slice through glass. He said he was tired of generalizations, that the industry was already drowning in public judgment without understanding the craft. Lorraine tried to soften it with a smile, saying, "I only meant in the broader sense, Kenneth." But the actor was already off script, his voice growing firmer, his hand gestures sharper. The audience's polite laughter faded into a nervous silence. What was meant to be a cheerful segment about art had suddenly turned into a battlefield of egos and principles, live on national television. Behind the scenes, producers were panicking. They whispered into Lorraine's earpiece, telling her to move on, but Kenneth wasn't ready to let it go. He started speaking about how the media twists narratives, how interviews often reduce complex discussions into sound bites. Lorraine, still graceful but visibly uneasy, nodded along, trying to pull the conversation back to safer ground. The film's storyline, his cast, the beauty of cinema. But Kenneth wasn't done. "You can't talk about art," he said sharply, "without talking about the truth behind it." His voice echoed in the studio, and Lorraine's lips tightened into a polite but strained smile. When Lorraine tried to redirect again, Kenneth interrupted, accusing morning shows of sanitizing real discussion. Lorraine's composure cracked for a second. A flash of irritation passed through her usually calm demeanor. "We do try to keep things balanced," she replied, "especially for our audience." Kenneth smirked, leaned back in his chair, and muttered something under his breath that the microphones picked up just enough to send a ripple through the control room. Lorraine's face froze. The air was thick. This was no longer just awkward. It was live chaos unfolding in slow motion. Lorraine's professionalism kicked in as she tried to move the conversation forward, suggesting they discuss Kenneth's next project or his upcoming festival appearance. But Kenneth wasn't finished. "Why avoid what matters?" he shot back. "Isn't journalism about asking real questions?" Lorraine blinked, stunned by the sudden reversal of roles. The audience didn't know whether to clap or cringe. Cameras stayed focused, capturing every uncomfortable second. The charm of British morning TV had cracked open, revealing something raw and unfiltered. An actor unwilling to play the game, and a host trying to keep the show from collapsing on air. When the show cut to a commercial, the viewers thought it was a normal transition. But when it returned, Kenneth Branagh was gone. Lorraine sat alone on the couch, her expression steady but her eyes betraying unease. "We apologize for the abrupt end to that segment," she said softly. "Mr. Branagh has left the studio." The silence that followed was deafening. Twitter erupted. Within minutes, Kenneth Branagh and Lorraine Kelly were trending nationwide. Clips of the tense exchange began circulating, some showing Kenneth's sharp tone, others Lorraine's poised restraint. Everyone had an opinion, and no two stories matched. Backstage, witnesses described a scene of confusion. Kenneth had reportedly stood up during the break, still angry, saying he wouldn't be handled or edited for comfort. A producer asked him to calm down, but Kenneth simply walked toward the exit, his assistant trailing behind him. Security didn't escort him, but they didn't stop him either. Lorraine stayed behind, head bowed for a moment before regaining her on-camera poise. Those few seconds off-air, according to crew members, were filled with disbelief. Lorraine, known for her warmth and control, had just seen her show slip beyond her grasp. The following hours were chaos for ITV. News outlets began calling, demanding statements. Some headlines accused Kenneth of arrogance, while others painted him as a truth-teller silenced by morning television. Lorraine's team issued a short note. "We regret that our interview with Sir Kenneth Branagh ended prematurely due to creative differences in tone." Kenneth's publicist, on the other hand, said he chose to withdraw from an environment that did not respect artistic dialogue. Two entirely different stories, and both spreading like wildfire across the internet. Viewers were divided. Many sided with Lorraine, calling Kenneth's outburst unprofessional and unnecessary. Others praised him for speaking his mind, for refusing to be boxed into easy television narratives. Commentators on radio and podcasts debated the fine line between integrity and ego. Was Kenneth defending art or defending pride? Was Lorraine provoking him or simply doing her job? What had begun as a movie promotion had turned into a national debate on civility and authenticity in media. By nightfall, social media was ablaze with memes, quotes, and amateur analyses. One clip, Kenneth saying "you can't sanitize truth for breakfast television," went viral, turning into both a slogan and a joke. Lorraine's fans praised her for maintaining dignity under pressure, while Kenneth's admirers called him brave for refusing to play the polite game of PR. Somewhere in between, producers knew they had just witnessed a cultural moment, one that blurred the line between performance and reality. The next day, as Lorraine smiled once again on her morning broadcast, the empty seat beside her seemed heavier than ever, echoing with the memory of the clash that no one could quite forget. In the days that followed, the fallout only grew larger. Kenneth Branagh, a man long respected for his poise and intellect, suddenly found himself at the center of a storm that had nothing to do with cinema. The headlines were relentless. Branagh explodes on live TV. Lorraine ambushed by angry guest. A clash of egos on Morning Britain. Kenneth's team tried to diffuse the narrative by releasing a calm, carefully worded statement saying that he valued open discussion, but believed the environment of the interview was not conducive to meaningful dialogue. Lorraine's camp, in turn, emphasized that her show remains a space for respectful and balanced conversation. But by then, the public had already chosen sides. What began as an awkward moment had transformed into a cultural debate about the very nature of media, ego and authenticity. Kenneth, known for his deep respect for the craft of storytelling, gave no further interviews that week. Paparazzi caught glimpses of him leaving rehearsals, his head low beneath a cap, ignoring shouted questions. Insiders said he was furious at how the incident was being framed, not as a moment of passion for truth, but as a celebrity meltdown. He reportedly told friends that Lorraine's tone was condescending and that he felt cornered into defending his integrity. Yet even those close to him admitted that Kenneth's temper, though rare, could be explosive when his artistry was questioned. That day, it seemed, the thin line between sensitivity and pride had snapped. Meanwhile, Lorraine carried on with her show as if nothing had happened, but subtle cracks were visible. Viewers noticed her careful choice of words, the slight hesitation before any question that might sound controversial. Some praised her restraint, others accused her of playing the victim. Still, her professionalism shone. She addressed the incident only once, saying softly, "Sometimes conversations don't go as planned, but respect must always remain." Her audience applauded, but the wound hadn't fully healed. Even Lorraine's longtime colleagues admitted the atmosphere behind the scenes had been tense for days. As tabloids continued to feast on the clash, the entertainment industry began weighing in. Fellow actors defended Kenneth, saying artists should never be muzzled by TV niceties. Journalists defended Lorraine, insisting that interviews must hold even great artists accountable. Directors whispered that Kenneth's reaction might hurt his media image. Fans countered that true artists shouldn't care about image at all. It became more than just a spat. It became a question of values. Should art always be polite, or should it be allowed to burn bridges in pursuit of truth? A week later, Kenneth finally broke his silence in a recorded message on his official page. Looking calm but resolute, he said, "I believe in conversation, not confrontation. But when you feel your work and your words are reduced to spectacle, silence becomes self-betrayal." The statement was powerful, eloquent, and yet still defensive. It reignited the debate rather than calming it. Lorraine's supporters said he was refusing to take responsibility for his behavior. Kenneth's admirers said he was reclaiming his dignity. Either way, the moment had already escaped both of them. It had become bigger than the people involved. Producers at ITV began privately worrying a